Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. And you know what's come to my attention recently? I have been doing this show for a very long time, and yet, I haven't done a Star Trek review in ever. Yeah, I've done several Doctor Who themed reviews before, but never for Star Trek. The main reason is because I'm just kind of a casual fan of the franchise, and I don't really know all the ins and outs of it. Don't get me wrong, I've watched content creators who are diehard Trekkies, and I've kept up with a decent handful of each generation, and I see the appeal of them. Some more than others. Cough, Lower Deck, cough. I mean, we already have the Orville. I mean, it's like one of the last things that Seth MacFarlane has out that's actually good, so yeah, we don't need this, thank you very much. But yeah, out of all of the shows from this franchise, the ones that I've kept up with the most were the original 60s series, which definitely has an appeal for its both good writing and likable cast, even to its more goofier, dated special effects. But like I said, that's definitely part of its charm. I mean, you can easily say the same thing about some of the early Doctor Who's. And the other show that I watched a lot of was Next Generation, which was just straight up great 90s sci-fi television. And it kept the crucial elements of the original show with the solid cast and strong writing, along with its strong sense of drama with a lot of the storylines in this generation. While I am just a casual fan of Star Trek, I definitely see the appeal of it, and I think that it's fairly earned its rank amongst the nerd and geek pop culture zeitgeist after all these years. And so, for the very first ever Star Trek related review for MediaWiz, let's take a look at a board game. People can say what they want about the newer generations of Star Trek. I'm certainly not that big on a lot of it. But one thing you can't deny is that it is still a very lucrative series. A fact that Paramount is probably very, very happy about. But even back in the years of Next Generation, hell, even during the William Shatner days, this franchise had a ton of merchandising put into it. And naturally, in the 90s, it seemed like you can turn any popular property, from Ninja Turtles to Power Rangers, into any form of entertainment, board games included. And while there are a ton of different Star Trek board games to choose from, I decided to go with this one, Star Trek The Next Generation Interactive VCR Board Game, a Klingon Challenge. Because apparently it's the new tradition here on the MediaWiz reviews for me to look at old VCR related board games. First it was VCR Golf, then VCR WrestleMania, and now we're looking at one based on Star Trek. But hey, I mean, it can't be all that bad, right? I mean, Mike Stacklasa from Red Letter Media seems to really enjoy it.
Is it embarrassing that I know his name is Galron?
Yes.
I thought so.
So let's take a look at the game proper. This is Star Trek, the interactive VCR board game, A Klingon's Challenge. So here we go, here we have the game board, and this game never plays the same twice. So that's a good way to start, that's a good tagline. And then over here we have some unique collector's edition number, apparently, so yeah, this is apparently a very rare item. I know that this copy of the game that has the white box, this is apparently the collector's edition. There's like later releases of the game that have a black cover instead. But yeah, so I guess that's the collector's edition that's mentioned here. But this cover art, very good. You'll notice that the box is a little bit different compared to the ones for some of the other games we've done recently, like E.T. the board game, the WWF WrestleMania board game. They were a lot thinner compared to this. This one's a little bit more compact, but also a little bit thicker than those ones. Not as big as the VCR Golf one though. That one was a really big box. Now here's the back of the box. We got some pictures to go along with it. We got all the little pieces on display here, some cards, the overall product with all the pieces laid out and everything. The game for every Star Trek fan. More than just a board game, this interactive adventure actually lets you board the USS Enterprise and star in a special Star Trek Next Generation episode. This game is enhanced by a 60-minute VHS videotape that contains original footage shot on location at Paramount Pictures in Hollywood, California. The production uses authentic sets, costumes, special video effects, and sound effects in the television show. Can you play it more than once? Absolutely yes. This innovative VCR format allows you to play again and again, and the game plays differently each time. Each adventure is randomized by the game elements and by the unique interaction and dialogue directly between the players and the video opponent. When the USS Enterprise is hijacked by a renegade Klingon warrior, you will see, hear, and feel the power of Klingon wrath. Your mission? Safeguard the Starship Enterprise and preserve the delicate alliance between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. For everyone, it's a race against the clock. Go ahead, take a Klingon challenge and explore a new and exciting frontier in home entertainment with Star Trek The Next Generation interactive VCR board game. Okay, so that's the front and back of the box, so now let's open this up and get some of the pieces out and we'll set this up. Alright, so already we have a how to host a mystery. I'm assuming this is for some other game that maybe this company had made. Yeah, it's another one of these like, oh, we did a bunch of other VCR games and here's a list of them and you can buy them at these locations and they're at this price, and yeah, it's one of those. Okay, so here, whoa, we have the rules and a very, very, very long piece of paper letting us know about the pieces and the rules. It's interesting though, I've never seen anything like this before. Here we got the tricorders that are going to be used for the game. We have the computer access cards, the holodeck cards, here we have the tape, which is smack dab in the center of all of this. And underneath that, look, even more stuff. And this stuff is mostly going to be used for the player pieces, stuff that's going to be part of the tricorders. Of course, we have a die to go along with all of it. This is definitely one of the more jam-packed ones that has lots of different little intricate pieces to go along with. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. For people who are looking for a quick game, then obviously, yeah, they probably don't want to go with this. But if they want a game that has a bunch of different intricacies and one that'll be potentially exciting, then yeah, then you would go with a game like this. And lastly, underneath all of it, we of course have the board itself. Oh, we even have a little sticker sheet. That's cool. So this time we'll be starting with the tape, since it's actually the main driving force of the gameplay. On the tape, we see a Klingon named Kavik, played by Robert O'Reilly, who is actually a familiar face to the world of Star Trek Next Gen, as the Klingon Chancellor Gowron. Here, Kavik has gained access to the USS Enterprise while it's under maintenance, and says that he will use it to begin a war with the Klingons' home planet since he views their alliance with the Federation as making his people weaker. But since he is apparently up for a good challenge, he says that he'll give the players the opportunity to try and best him. As he messes around with the video feed on the ship and taunts the players all throughout, the game is also narrated by another Next Gen regular, William Riker, once again played by Jonathan Frakes. They also give you a time limit of 60 minutes. If you're unable to beat the game before the timer runs out, then Kavik wins. But beat the game before then you're the winner. So right away, this is already a step up from the tapes from the other VCR games that I've reviewed, like VCR Golf and WrestleMania. With those tapes, it just felt like recycled footage that they slapped together and gave very lazy implications as to how it ties into the gameplay. Like, oh, if you landed on a certain number with your roll of the dice, then you get more or less points if the number you rolled or higher is presented on screen, or some cheap crap like that. Here they went the Dragon Strike route and made a fun, unique, a tad cheesy, but still entertaining tape that gives us a fun setup to the plot of the game. It also helps that we have some production value here. The fact they brought in some familiar actors from the series, as well as used recognizable sets from the Enterprise, shows that this wasn't just a half-assed rush job. So things are already starting to look up compared to the other VCR-related board games I had to look at on this show. But now that we have all that set up, how exactly is the game played? Well, the board is laid out like the Enterprise, and the mission is to gain total control of the ship before the timer runs out. So most of the time, the players will be going around the board in a counterclockwise pattern. The way to properly gain access to the ship is through your tricorder. You can use your tricorder by collecting all the pieces to assemble it. The pieces are spread all around the board, and the players can retrieve them depending on what spaces they land on. Very similar to the spaces used in the E.T. board game, the spaces are all modeled after things from the original source material of the show, and serve in a lot of the same functions that you'd see in board games like this. The spaces include computer access, holodeck, move again, turbo lift access, sick bay, miss a turn, etc. Computer access spaces usually result in getting pieces of the tricorder, as well as getting the chance to use the cards that could also determine the outcome of the player's turn, like getting assistance from other players or helping other players get further in the game. These come in handy when it comes to the sickbay spaces, since they're basically this game's equivalent of the start from square one space. Land on sickbay, then you're starting from the beginning of the game. The different pieces of the tricorder that you collect gives the player different advantages that help them progress through the game, such as access to the holodeck, which you can also get through the form of the holodeck cards, the ability to travel around the board easier, access to a phaser, immunity against the stasis fields that Kavik uses to trap the players, and of course access to the bridge where you can finally take on Kavik one-on-one, save the day, and win the game. So would I say this was a good game? Well, surprisingly, yes. Yes, I would. This game feels like a real love letter to people who enjoy Next Gen. There's the right level of fan service on display, with tons of effective references to the original series that wonderfully tie into the gameplay. While the gameplay is your typical go-around board, collect pieces, and land on spaces format, they do enough with it that makes it stand out as a good Star Trek game. And the tape that comes with this game is easily one of its highlights. I've said it before in this review, and I'll say it again. The fact that they put more effort into the tape than the last few I've reviewed is already a perk in my eyes. But taking things a step further, the tape is a good accessory to the gameplay, since it actually adds a sense of tension with the ticking clock element. And it definitely helps with the performances that are on display here, especially Robert O'Reilly as Kavik. He is a treat to watch all throughout this, as he balances between hammy and intense with the character.
Computer, lay in a course for Kronos. Warp 9. Execute! You! The crew member who is moving now. I place you in a stasis field. You think you're a challenge? Not yet. I have programmed a power blackout in all rooms of this ship.
So if you're either a die-hard Trekkie or just a casual fan of Star Trek, and you're looking for a fun little retro throwback game for a game night, and assuming that you still own a VCR, yeah, then definitely check out A Klingon's Challenge. It's a very fun game. I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough.
False. It never happened. It's a fake. It's fiction.